Episode 1, where we take down diseased trees in order to save the forest around them.
Just go down here. Awesome. My name's Kent. I am a climbing arborist. Base cut!
Not now, Covey. Oh, hi, Jeb the Builder. In today's episode, we're going to talk about forest health and laminated root rot in Doug firs, etc. Things that we're doing to try to make the forest healthier. So what we have out here, mostly in our Douglas firs, is a laminated root rot. So it's a fungus that travels between trees through the roots. We have an issue out here, and it's something that's spreading in many areas. There's more precipitation, hotter weather. It's just things are getting kind of strange weather-wise. The trees can't quite keep up with these changes. So in our particular case, it's very easy to walk around the property here and look into the trees and see the healthy ones versus the ones that are appearing to be compromised. And the healthy ones are just a deep green, very little of the moss, the lichen, just a normal amount of cones come out in the summertime. A good example is our tree where the solar panels are mounted, and it is looking extremely healthy. It's one of our happiest trees. A lot of these trees, it becomes very obvious that something's happening. Again, the needles start falling and they get like this very light green, like a mossy lichen starts hanging off of them. And the needles get thinner and that mossy lichen grows exponentially. And the other thing is, even when they look green, when you look like this time of year, you can look and you see tons and tons of pine cones, like just immense amount of pine cones. Like they almost go into a panic mode, reproduction mode, to keep producing. They're hoping that more trees will grow as they know they're dying. And you look at the bark all the way down, everything looks fine right to the ground. Bark looks fine, but once you get inside the tree, once it falls and you look, often it's just barely any of the exterior wood structure left. It's just down to bark, and it just snaps right off at the ground. And then you look inside and it's just gone, just completely rotted. So as I've noticed this problem getting worse over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I was concerned if it was bark beetle or what was going on. So I've consulted with biologists at the county, the state, Fish and Wildlife, and DNR, with a local timber company around us, they're also having the same problem. So I talked with a couple guys there, and they all said the best thing to do is to remove them and get them out of there. And so the only way to really have an impact on saving the rest of the forest and the trees around these infected ones is to remove them. And again, it's an unfortunate thing, but we're looking long term and taking them out to try to save as much of the forest as possible around them. And in many cases, when you have trees that die, they're standing and dying, you want to leave them intact because there's up to 36, 37 species live in what are called snags. And those are essentially just trees that have died and are still standing. And those provide all kinds of bugs for different animals to feed on. They provide habitat. Birds, squirrels, etc. will bore into them. And so when you do have trees, otherwise healthy trees that have died or come down in storms and are not diseased, you want to leave them, in particular when it's around streams, the beach, etc., to help build up the forest floor. It's good on steep hillsides to help hold up the hillside. So what we're doing is we're taking down some, unfortunately, very tall, very beautiful trees, but in order to keep our property safe, the cabin, etc., because a lot of them are in close proximity, we're having them removed. And the good news is we're reusing them, we're milling them up. So the tree itself is only damaged the first 4 to 6, maybe 8 feet. The center of the tree literally just rots out. The bark looks fine on the outside, etc., but once we get them down and we pull them out of the forest, we can reuse most of the tree. The process of taking these trees out is a whole nother subject. So the first thing you have to do is clear all of the debris around the base of the trees, just so there's no trip hazards, there's no brush. If someone needs to get away from it, they just have a clear area and just easy access to get to work on the tree. So the next step after clearing around the trees is to find a tree that we can hang what's called a snatch block off, essentially a pulley. So Kent or the arborist would go up that tree, put a pulley up there, snatch block, same thing, and he will chain it to the tree, run the rope through it, and then climb up the tree that's coming down, go up and then attach the rope much higher up the tree than where it's going to be cut. And the other end of the rope is then attached to the backhoe, which will be used to pull it through the pulley. And in the case of property like this, many times he has to climb up at least 15 feet to cut it, so that way the tree will not fall and then the butt end kick up. And where it's topographically challenging like this, you need a place to escape, so actually going up the tree is safer than doing it from the ground. So he then cuts a notch in the tree in the direction that he wants it to fall and gets that just lined up right, and then after that he will go to the back of the tree.
Back cut!
A cut at an angle down towards the front cut, and it essentially creates a hinge right at the very center of the tree, at which point I start putting pressure on the rope, which then just brings the tree down to the direction we want and landing in our zone, our safety zone. And a healthy tree, when it comes down, will fall and some branches will break and stuff, but it essentially comes down in one piece. The diseased trees, they get to a point, they come down and they just explode. It's like tempered glass, just blows in pieces all over. As exciting as it is to see these come down, it's a bummer. Like I look at these things and many of these trees were here before we became a country, literally. I mean, I've counted 250 rings on these trees. I've had 6-inch trees. The first time I took a tree down, it was leaning towards the cabin. It was a 6-inch Doug fir, And I'm like 20, 25, maybe 30 years old. So I cut this thing down 6 inches and probably about 70 feet tall, real straight, skinny thing. And so I had to get it down before it hit the cabin. And when I cut it down, I counted the rings, 89 years old. And I was like, actually, I was bummed me out. I'm like, oh my God, I just killed a grandpa tree, a grandmother tree. But it had to come down. And we've had other ones that are 20, 24 inch in diameter, dying and leaning towards the cabin. Again, all these things, it's a laminated root rot that weakens the base. And counted over 250 years in a tree, that big. And it's shocking to me, but out in this area, there's something between the soil, the conditions that make these things grow extremely slow. So knowing all the history, everything these trees have seen, and then to have to drop them, it's a drag, but it's necessary to save everything around it as best we can, because it's going to really be a huge issue, and it may become, even with our efforts, it might become an issue. But glad to have Kent, the tree guy, able to help out. Some other friends helping out, and Gordon, the Sawyer, get him out here, and he does a wonderful job. And we try to utilize everything we can. So out of respect to the trees, like a lot of people just cut them down, chop them up, and burn them. And I'm like, no. It's kind of like when I catch a fish, like when I get a big salmon on, and I pull that fish in, I thank the fish. I've even have had guys out fishing bring me salmon, and even they bring it in, and even though they caught it and I get it, and I thank it, because we really are blessed to have this around us, and we really should respect everything we've got: trees, fish, everything. So stay tuned for an upcoming episode that will be my buddy Gordon coming out with his mill, and we're going to cut the logs up right here on the property, and we're going to show you how to mill up these logs, how to turn them from round logs into usable lumber. And so if you like this, please subscribe and hit the like button.
Sure.
What? You like? And show you how we turn a round log into usable lumber. And please like this video and subscribe, and we'll see you then.